Hello.
Hello.
What topics do you discuss on chat roulette?
Yeah.
What's to discuss? What's unclear?
Well, I'd like to hear more opinions because it's very important to me.
Why do you need an external opinion? What are you going to do with it, with this external opinion? Statistics. Ah, are you a sociologist keeping statistics? Statistics. Why would you even need those statistics? So, you've drawn up your bar charts. What exactly are you going to do with them then?
Yes, I'm just. Well, it is necessary.
For what?
Well, personal interests like that.
You don't possess personal interest. This is strictly for work.
Well, that too. And
What's your job?
but work isn't work a personal interest?
Personal interests are personal interests, and work is work. You're so mysterious. It seems like you're an FSB agent. Good grief, what kind of FSB is this?
No, no, no.
No? Why need Ukrainian public opinion data?
Well, I'm curious.
Oh, don't lie. Just come up with some reasonable explanation instead of saying you're just keeping track of statistics.
All right, fine. I just want to communicate and chat with people.
Aha, on the topic.
Fine. I just want to talk to people.
War topic?
And the war, of course.
Wonderful. Do you have any questions? Or should I ask you a question?
Do you have questions for me?
Well, of course, if your topic of conversation is the war, I have a ton of questions for you. But you're the one collecting statistics. You should be asking the questions. Or have you stopped collecting statistics?
Let me explain, may I?
Of course.
I collect statistics on the reactions of people I talk to. That's the type of statistics I gather.
You have it. What will you do with this data?
Well, why do you need it?
Well, I'm curious. Because your explanation is very weak, in my opinion. You need to work on it, understand? Well, I don't believe it. Stanislavski, remember, used to say, I don't believe it. Yes, I have a question for you. Yes, I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
In your personal opinion, what is the reason for the conflict between Russia and Ukraine?
Our Uncle Vova, along with perhaps a dozen other individuals, truly desires to somehow realize their personal ambitions. Again,
That explanation doesn't work. Statistics disprove it. No, you don't need to. Statistics is a concept, and it disproves your explanation. If it was only Uncle Vova and his inner circle who wanted this, then the greater part of your country's population wouldn't be in support of him, and yet they are. So the explanation that it's just what Uncle Vova and his circle wanted doesn't work. Come up with something else.
and do you know why? Do you know why? If they support him, if tomorrow Uncle Vova says we need to go to war with the South Pole with the penguins,
And you will go to war, right? And you will go to war. This suggests that the majority of the population is.
don't interrupt me, I'm not finished. Wait, you're a cultured person.
I'm not cultured, I'll warn you right now, but I won't warn you about that.
Whose idea is it? Is it Uncle Vova's idea to fight penguins at the South Pole or the entire Russian nations? What do you think?
The people will gladly go to war, even with penguins at the North Pole, with great enthusiasm.
You asked about the idea. What do you mean by that?
This suggests that
You said idea, and now
it indicates that your society is truly like that, not solely Uncle Vova and his immediate circle. That's the specific point I want to convey to you.
formulate the question correctly from the start. You originally said,
I formulated it correctly. I heard, no, I wasn't asking about an idea. I was asking about the reasons.
you completely rephrased it into nothing.
No, you addressed the reasons. I was just telling you that your reason isn't entirely accurate, because the majority of the population desires a conflict with Ukraine. Don't tell me about penguins.
Believe me, before 2014, nobody wanted this at all.
They did.
Nobody wanted it until the propaganda began to take hold.
No, I don't believe it. That's the entire problem, the fact that I don't believe it. Even before 2014, your society wanted to go to war with Ukraine, but the government wouldn't allow it. However, in 2014, your government did allow what the overwhelming majority of the population desired. And that majority of the population wants to go to war.
Sometimes you say we, sometimes you know everything. I'm not bothered by the informal you. Okay, I'll use the formal you, you're older.
I don't care.
I can tell you this. I'm from Belgorod myself. I'm very assimilated with Kharkiv. I have relatives there. My brother is in the territorial defense in Dnipro right now. And my aunt, well, I'm not sure. We talk about once a week. They're constantly moving from place to place. The essence is this. Anyway, before the war in 2014, before it started in 2009, 2008, I was in Kharkiv a bunch of times. My friends visited me. We got along so well. And now you're saying what you were saying, well, that's simply complete nonsense. I'm not. You're all Russians. Those are your words. Yes, you hate Ukrainians. How can I not hate them? All my relatives live there. That's just rubbish.
I see. You know where you're mistaken? Your reasoning is flawed.
Well, I'm listening.
Logic is a branch of science. You possess an inadequate foundation for your deduction. You are drawing your conclusions solely based on your personal connections and your circle of friends, and that in itself is a fairly limited scope. But there are statistics for Russia that say something completely different. And you have an insufficient basis for the conclusion that the population of Russia did not want war before 2014. That's just your personal impression from your social circle and nothing more. If you started talking about statistics at the very beginning of our conversation, then you must understand that your personal statistics do not align with the statistics of a population of 140 million people. Got it?
That's a fair point. You're exaggerating, I agree, and I understand what you're trying to convey. Indeed, you absolutely do have a very valid point there. Just a moment, please. In that case, I will have to rephrase what you are saying. You claim all you Russians, well,
I didn't say all of you.
don't generalize everyone, don't generalize.
The majority of the population, the statistics say so.
There, now you've corrected yourself, say the majority.
I didn't claim everyone. I told you there are statistics, and while they might be slightly higher or lower than the real figures, they are nonetheless quite close and reflective of reality. Before 2014, even before 2014, there was hostility in your society towards Ukraine, Ukrainians, and all things Ukrainian. However, the authorities didn't really allow it to develop, but now they've given it the green light. And now your government has merged in ecstasy with the majority of the population. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, this is a small personal observation of mine, and it could even be considered my own statistics, right? You claim people harbored hatred before 2014. To be frank, we didn't even consider it. That's it.
That's within your small circle in Belgorod, which is connected to Kharkiv. Yeah.
Perhaps.
And then, in your circle, there are a few more circles revolving around you. Plus, you reside in a border region, and the worldview there is a bit different. But you didn't interact with them. No, you didn't communicate with people from Russia's central regions. You didn't communicate with the Trans-Urals region during that period. You were in, roughly speaking, a soap bubble that was convenient for you, and from that bubble you made a generalization about the entire population of Russia. That's wrong.
Well, it's likely because our propaganda is consistent throughout Russia. The same TV channels broadcast everywhere.
Understood.
In my city, there was this kind of propaganda, and people really didn't give a damn. They weren't even aware. Well, we only knew because, figuratively speaking, we live right on the border, what Ukraine is and all that kind of stuff. How, as they say in the Trans-Urals, they knew what Ukraine was, but I think, again, in my personal subjective opinion, they were generally...
You see, you're constantly, and I'm interrupting you. I apologize, I'm always interrupting you. You're making that same logical error again. You acknowledge it exists, then continue to repeat it. That's all there is to it. Nothing more.
Okay, where did you get those statistics?
But that's not representative of all of Russia. The Levada Center is quite independent in your country, and VT Sayom provided these statistics, and the Levada Center provided these statistics.
Bandera.
Well, even a long time before that, do you get what I mean? But if you have more dependable instruments for measuring public sentiment.
Which year did you examine the statistics from the Levada Center?
Take any year.
And what was the question exactly? Like hatred for Ukraine?
What's the attitude towards Ukrainians? Do you consider them to be your enemies? Do you have a positive outlook on them? There are various degrees of this. And still these. On any given question, it's enough.
What year?
Pick any year, for God's sake.
Well, let's see. Which one? Let's take 2010 or 2008.
Take 2009, 2008, or any year for that matter. You seem to be forgetting about the so-called gas wars, about the cheese wars. Do you remember your Onishchenko, the head of Roskomnadzor? The sentiment of animosity toward Ukraine was consistently featured on your TV channels, but it wasn't extensively broadcast. However, it was already producing outcomes even then. If it hadn't been yielding results back then, it wouldn't have been possible to fool the population so quickly since 2014, as you seem to think. This rather unpleasant attitude towards Ukraine has always been present in what's called the public discourse for quite a while, actually. On your TV channels, they constantly claimed Ukraine is stealing our gas and Ukraine is supplying low-quality products. This narrative has been consistently pushed since the early 2000s. But that's the problem.
My dear man, how can I show you? I'm on the Levada Center website right now.
Yeah, I'll believe you.
The year 2008.
Okay, and what's the question?
May I?
Yes, go ahead.
You just lied. You know, I want to rub your nose in it like you do with a kitten in its own pee.
Go on then.
Look. Statistically, the error margin is under 3%. Interviews were done with
What was the question?
7.
What was the question?
How do they feel about it? Well, negatively, badly, or I find it difficult to answer. There are 3 options for answering.
Go.
Out of 2,100 people. So 55% of respondents said they felt very good about it, and this data is from 2008. And 33% responded with, it's mostly bad but acceptable. And 13% responded with, I find it difficult to answer.
Okay, and?
In 2008,
Now
55%.
look.
Good.
Right, look.
Wait, hold on. Don't get so far ahead of yourself. What did you just tell me?
What did I say to you? I told you that first. Let me tell you again what I said. Don't chatter on. Just wait. I already told you.
Go on, apologize.
No, I'm about to.
You need to take back your words, otherwise we're done talking.
Either you give me a chance to speak, and then perhaps I will be open to changing my perspective. I already told you that from the early 2000s, a significantly large percentage of Russians harbored negative sentiments towards Ukrainians. Is the 30% figure you just stated considered a substantial percentage?
You said the majority.
I did not say the majority. I actually have this video recording. I will share it with you if you stay.
You didn't say it exactly. Rewatch your video.
I'm telling you again, I'll review it. I've been consistently telling you since the early 2000s a significant portion of Russians held negative sentiments toward Ukraine, but your government prevented it from fully developing. I am simply reiterating what I have already said. And since 2014, it has truly taken off. Do you want me to apologize? All right, I apologize to you now.
Knows how to admit his mistakes.
I apologize to you, but I must reiterate that you misunderstood and didn't hear what I said. I'm telling you again that a large number of Russians had quite a negative attitude toward Ukraine since the early 2000s. The groundwork was already laid for this. However, your authorities had not yet really promoted this foundation, as it wasn't necessary for them at that time. However, more than 30% in 2008, that was indeed quite a large figure. And it was only by possessing that specific figure that it became possible to significantly amplify it from 2014 onwards. If back in 2008, the very year you were just reading about, only 5 to 7% of Russians had negative sentiments toward Ukrainians, then boosting that to 80% by 2014 would have been totally impossible. And having 30-something% of negativity, to amplify it by twice as much, up to 60%, just a twofold increase, not 20 times, but simply double. That is quite straightforward. I'm trying to express these thoughts to you, yet you're just trying to throw them back in my face without even listening to what I'm saying.
And that's absolutely right, and I'll explain why. By 2008, the number had already grown to that. Since 2004, when the Orange Revolution figuratively took place, anti-Ukrainian propaganda had already begun in our country.
That's exactly what I'm saying. It's not about the propaganda, my dear friend, no. You keep focusing solely on propaganda. No, propaganda is merely one component. Propaganda is effective.
Where do people get their information from? What do you think?
Not just from propaganda.
Especially back then, back in 2004, there was basically no internet for the masses. Sure, a few people had it, but the masses didn't. Where were they supposed to get information? From the TV, of course.
Okay, look.
But that's propaganda, and you say propaganda.
No, you're only fixating on propaganda. You're just asserting that the people are inherently good, that they held a positive view of Ukrainians, and that Putin's propaganda solely brought about these outcomes. That's not how it works. The core characteristics are deeply embedded within the populace. If you contrast, I'll compare it for you. Look, during Hitler's period, why was the propaganda of Hitler and Goebbels so incredibly effective on the German people? Why did the Germans become anti-Semitic so quickly? Why did the German people desire war in the early 1930s? Because it was a direct consequence of their defeat in the First World War. The German populace was primed, already searching for both external and internal adversaries. This very process, spanned more than 2 decades. And when Hitler rose to power, he capitalized on the very desires that were already deeply ingrained in the majority of the German populace. Most of the German populace desired revanchism, a chance to avenge themselves against the British and French, and Hitler exploited this sentiment, which then proliferated. The majority of the population understood that in 1919, 1/7 of their territory and 1/12 of their population had been taken from them by the Treaty of Versailles. The Germans felt deprived and wanted these territories back. However, while the Weimar Republic was in power, this particular aspect wasn't emphasized greatly. However, the populace, whether it was 30, 40, or even 20%, desired this outcome, but the authorities prevented it from happening. And when Hitler came, who wanted the same thing the majority of the German population also wanted, it literally transformed Germany in just a year or two. From a seemingly calm Germany, Nazi Germany suddenly appeared, with everyone cheering Heil Hitler and rejoicing as Hitler vowed to reclaim territories, a deeply felt issue for every German. To boost the economy, and that was a sore point for every German. You understand, propaganda works where there's already a foundation for it, and then it becomes even more effective.
I agree.
That's my point.
So, how does this specific example about Germany, right, Nazi Germany from 31 or whenever that whole party business began, truly apply? How can this example be applied to Russia? Germany was defeated in the First World War. What does Russia have to do with it?
Let me explain. Russian society.
The Soviet Union's collapse?
Precisely, you've grasped it, clever one. You see it, don't you? Russian society viewed Soviet society as its own. The Soviet Union was Great Russia. And then all of a sudden, this Great Russia. The Germans lost 1/7 of their territories, but Great Russia lost Belarus, Ukraine, Central Asia, and the Baltic states. And the population simply couldn't come to terms with that. But while Yeltsin was in power and you had economic problems, you had enough internal problems to deal with. This was seen as the primary concern, but the populace longed for the resurgence of Great Russia, a formidable nation that would inspire fear in others, exactly as Soviet propaganda had consistently proclaimed for 7 decades.
There, we've come back to propaganda again, exactly.
However, Soviet propaganda was also deeply rooted in Russian society, primarily because in 1917, Russian society had similarly lost Ukraine, the Baltic states, and Central Asia. And when the Bolsheviks successfully managed to restore all of that, and then in addition, they also...
Are you referring to the moment of the revolution, suggesting that because certain territories were lost?
The Russian Empire, the Great Russian one.
But don't you think it's more like this is the case?
You see, it had lost Finland, it had lost the Baltic states. The population deeply felt that loss. And the Russian Bolshevik propaganda just used that immediately. It truly recognized that Russia aimed to restore its expansive borders. And Soviet propaganda worked on what the majority of the population was already thinking. Then, when the Soviet Union fell apart, your internal problems truly eclipsed these expansion issues. But still, a part of society clearly understood, we lost Ukraine, we lost Central, how could this happen? We are constantly losing, how can we lose? And this is what Putin's propaganda played on. Propaganda becomes effective when it leverages some inherent fundamental values. For Russian society, a core value is territorial expansion. That's it. How can we lose? We must expand, not lose. That's why it worked in 2013, you see. But you constantly say that it's just propaganda, only propaganda, some narrow layer. No, these are the core values of Russian society. We are losing territory. We are losing territory. How can this be? We were a powerful nation, had nuclear weapons, and suddenly we're losing land. Propaganda exploited this.
Well, yeah, if there wasn't fertile ground, that's what I'm saying. Propaganda might even claim Martians are attacking us and we'd look and find no Martians there, so where would all this negativity even originate from, right? When there are supposedly some external threats like Americans or geese or fascist laboratories.
However, for this to occur, there must be underlying societal predispositions. Then, the propaganda leverages these inherent conditions, leading to significantly greater amplification. But if I were to tell you right now that Martians have attacked you, 1% of your people believe in Martians, but you need to get that up to 80%. You won't reach 80% in a year. Not even 800% or whatever the math is, I'm bad at it. You just can't do it. However, the disapproval rate for Ukraine stands at 30%. You know, building on that, you could easily double it to 60%.
It can be, yes.
Yes. And you're trying to make me out to be some kind of kitten. You know?
I only brought up the kitten because if you observe the words, you started to speak in a very figurative and grand manner on such a large scale, and that's what I'm perceiving.
I'm explaining it in simple terms, and you yourself saw that 30% is already something propaganda can build on.
Well, your words were quite different earlier, but all right, let's not dwell on that topic. We've moved past it indeed. Thank you very much. That was truly excellent, by the way. I really liked what you said to me. Honestly, at one point you truly opened my eyes regarding the fertile ground for cultivation. I honestly hadn't really given that much thought before.
Operation Y and Shurik's Other Adventures, yes. Remember that film?
Yes.
There was that Smirnov character, the one who was being punished. It's a classic line. We should approach issues with a broader perspective and people with greater kindness. We need to be gentler with individuals and look at problems more broadly. You live in your Belgorod vacuum, Belgorod Kharkiv, and it seems to you that everything is just like that. But actually, your society is much more expansive than your limited worldview allows.
Do you have a YouTube channel? Where can I watch this?
Vox Veritatis on YouTube. Do you mind if this conversation is put up, or would you prefer I blur your face?
No, no need. I'm not afraid of anything. I don't care.
Well, you haven't said anything anti-government or anything like that.
If you can post it, I'm not. Well, I'm not against it.
Vox Veritatis. It's in Latin.
Where can I search for it?
Should I write it?
Yeah, just tell me. I'll look it up right now.
I'll write it for you. So you don't struggle. Just don't give me any copyright strikes.
Hey,
There, I've written it for you. You can go check it out now.
Vox Veritatis, yes.
On YouTube, yeah. Why aren't you live?
I just typed Vox and it appeared.
I'm a young, growing blogger.
Well, that's cool. All right, thank you. Oh, by the way, holy cow, look at what you have here. Thanks. Much respect and appreciation. And thank you for the food for thought, by the way. No, I don't need to be a star. I truly enjoyed speaking with you. You are a wonderful person. Thank you.
Thanks for your understanding. Good luck.
Goodbye.